Hey Jeepers. At the time of this recording, I was deep in COVID. My wife also tested positive, and she is currently in the hospital. So this what should have been a fun trip to Jasper is not. So please take some time to, let your loved ones know how you feel. She's making forward progress. But yeah, don't take things for granted.
Hey, Jeepers. Welcome to On the Trail with Kevin and Scott. The podcast about our favorite subjects, if you're listening to it, Jeeps. Hey, I'm Kevin, the tech guy, the wrench in hand, read the instructions, follow them kind of guy.
And I'm Scott. I'm the slapstick parts guy that, is currently not at work at the moment. But other than that, while we will share what worked for us as well as what didn't, remember, it's always up to you to do your research, read the instructions.
And please follow them. They really are important.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So, folks, you'll notice a couple things. I want to apologize to our patrons about the last show 123. I'm sure you all have noticed that there was no video.
Yeah.
That was an oopsie on our part. We actually have a wonderful video, but I didn't bother to post it because while it's a great video, it has absolutely no sound.
Yeah.
We up and somehow lost the soundtrack entirely to that show. So you'll just have to kind of watch listen to the regular podcast and just imagine Scott carrying on in his normal and me giving him the dirty looks.
Yeah, pretty much. So
you'll also notice that the audio quality, both of my voice, Scott's voice, aren't quite what they usually are.
No.
Actually, Scott's wonderful because he's sitting in front of his good mic, whereas I'm sitting in front of a iPhone on speaker.
Yeah.
Both chasing some health issues, nothing serious. Please don't worry. Mine is nothing more severe than a little bronchitis. Florida has been very wet, very moldy, very mildewy. And we've had lots and lots of rain. Some of that could have gone out west. I know they need it way more than we do. And my outside and the stuff a little too much got into the sinuses, and so I'm having one of those. It really feels weird having this kind of an illness. It reminds me of the winter colds that I had when I lived up in the northeastern United States. And you come into those spring colds where you thought, God, it's a nice day, and you go out and you get yourself thoroughly chilled, thoroughly wet, back to the dog.
Just Gunner saying hi.
But we definitely did not want to miss getting the show out to you. So if you can forgive the gravelly voice, we have a really good show today. We've got Mark Contrell from Wranglerfix back on. He has some new updates for us. Scott, anything from your end before we get rolling?
Well, first off, the Hurricane Fred didn't do much damage to my key strip. That was good. Yeah, luckily everything was fine. But as far as that's right on cue. As far as my health consideration goes, I'm going through the big D, and I don't mean Dallas or divorce. I have the Delta, so we are exercising the utmost caution. I am quarantining inside the house, so please, everyone, take this serious and stay healthy. But that's as far as we're going to go with that, because this is a Jeep podcast, and we're here to talk about Jeeps, right?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Cool.
That sounds good to me.
So if everyone wants to ask, yes, my O2 saturations are at 97. I'm okay. So moving on.
So it's one of the joys of being married to a nurse. As soon as he got positive, she showed up with an oxygen monitor, a heart rhythm, all this other stuff. Scott is probably the singular most well cared for patient that could be imagined.
Pretty much, yes. My current domicile in the living room looks like Darth Vader's bathroom with all the wires and plugs and stuff. So... But other than that, my spirits are in high hopes. And unfortunately, like you said, I wasn't able to get the winch installed on the Gladiator because we wanted to do that before Jasper. Really wanted to get Jasper taken care of. So, again, that's still on the fence at the moment. But hey, there's always
Yeah.
another one. And even the Great Smoky Mountain, or the Great Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion? Is that what's also going on?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I want to get out there one time too. So, but as far as everything else goes, I mean, I excuse me, couldn't get to the cough button in time. But other than that, Kevin, how was your past couple weeks?
Well, we're going to talk about part of it in the shop when we get over to the garage. And then I will say that I did get the call back on my RV for those of you who followed my posts on my trip, which actually turned out fairly good into Tennessee up to the near, I guess, a little bit west of Nashville. So my RV has been repaired, and I will be going up there in a week or so. I'm definitely not going to drag even a sinus cold out in this kind of political climate. And then drive the Jeep all the way back up to Atlanta, and because it's the only rig that I had the tow bar kit for.
Yeah.
And then me and the Jeep will head home with the Queen Mary.
Yay.
I think we got Mark waiting online here. So why don't we cut back over and bring Mark on and go ahead and do that interview. And then after that's over, you can open the garage door remotely. I left you that long range transmitter, and we will get into the garage as soon as we're done talking to Mark Cantrell.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, folks. Well, we're here with Mark. We've got him on the phone with us. Mark from Wranglerfix.com. We've had him on before, and we're bringing him back because he's made some pretty significant advancements, picked up more Jeeps, more lines, and so rather than me waste a lot of time asking questions, I'm just going to ask Mark, tell us what's new since we talked to you, what has been over a year ago.
It has been a long time, and thank you for having me back on. I greatly appreciate that. Well, what's new is we've become very proficient in building the 0506 TJs PCMs, which put us on the map. We can deliver them anywhere in the world within 24 hours, automatics or manuals. Again, that put us on the map, but we're not just 0506 TJ guys. I have every piece of TJ software ever written from all over the world, and we work on from YJs as far as repairs and stock as well. I have YJs, ZJs, a whole Dodge Chrysler Jeep line. That if you ever owned a Dodge Chrysler Jeep and not changed the computer, you just haven't owned it long enough. So that's
yeah,
we specialize in.
I've been through 2 computers on mine already, so yeah.
Yes, sir. And we actually on the 0506s we have the Jeeps that we test each one in before they leave, just like double checking your math, making sure that everything works, the gauges, and all of this. We just double check it. The TJ years we have simulators, and as well as for the YJ years and the JK years. Yes, we do JKs as well. We just we have simulators that we run them on just to double check everything, and we've been very blessed by each and every one of you that are listening, and everyone in the Wrangler industry, because it's been word of mouth advertising, not Google AdWords or any of that stuff that's help us build this reputation very quickly. And I'm again very grateful for you guys also for having me on, as well as the entire Wrangler community. So thank you.
I do have a quick question there for you, Mark, because it does seem to come up if you've ever been on any of the LJ forums online. People always seem to ask the same questions. What are like the common 04, 05, what to look for PCM problems? Shifting hard, check engine lights. What are some of the common things that could be a computer where you should start there?
You're right. The 2005 was the first year that Chrysler took the engine and transmission computer and formed the PCM, or powertrain control module, and it's anything 0506 Chrysler, but they put it in the worst possible spot. Think about where that PCM is located in your Jeep, behind that hot 4-liter engine, behind the battery, on the firewall. putting that PCM there is about the equivalent of putting some popcorn in a microwave, press and start, and wondering what's going to happen. um, the first symptom, and the first typical symptom is the hard shift from first to second when cold. On one of the forums, there's a link there with over 100,000 views, and that's the first problem. The second is O2 sensors showing bad when good. That's very, very common on both manuals and autos.
Yep.
The manual PCMs, there's two telltale signs on the 0506. It's stalling while driving, and all four O2 showing bad when good. And anyone, and I'm not going to backbite any of these companies, but there are several companies that will claim to repair these. And point blank, you're not going to repair Humpty Dumpty. You're not going to recover from the governor or the judge, and you're not going to repair this PCM. So anyone claiming to repair it they're selling you a pig in a poke. The 1600 codes on the automatic are another sign. That is processor failure on the PCM side of the PCM. And then transmission temperatures ranging from negative 30 to as high as 3,300 degrees Fahrenheit is another PCM problem.
Ouch.
Yeah. By that 3,300, the aluminum case would be melted, and you'd have a silver puddle onto your Jeep if that was true.
Yeah, I think you would be a part of that silver puddle.
Probably.
So, and
those are all. Is there any validation testing or anything they can do to ensure it? Other than the standard, is there, if they plug in a code reader, or if they have access to a proper scan tool, or is it pretty much just adding up the clues and then calling someone like yourself?
Yeah, the symptoms are, it's not a question of if, but when. The fail rate, and these PCMs were made by Huntsville in 05 and 06, and it affects everything across the board. 4.7s, 5.7s, 6.1s. I purchased an 06 T Cruiser Turbo to fix the problem, and there's not as many of those obviously around, but it's the same exact issue with all of those years and motor sizes that I just mentioned on because of the design. The PCM that we modify, it's a different design. It's slightly smaller, same bolt pattern, same design. Everything fits the same. It's just a slightly smaller PCM. The heat sink is internal, and it's a Motorola part, not a Huntsville part. And the best part about that, and people when I ask, well, what happens if this goes bad? We can repair them.
Okay.
So, and it is still a capitalistic country, and I know every single recycler in North America knows who Mark Cantrell is, and let's just say I have a surplus of the PCMs that we modify. So it's I've taken I've been very blessed with this business, and I've run it and reinvested the back into the business, and that's how we've been able to grow so quickly, so rapidly, is just doing doing the right thing.
Yeah, well, I know that we've got a couple shops here in town, several in fact, that started using you as a regular supplier when they get in the mystery failures. So that speaks fairly well that they continue to use you. And no, it's interesting because I like the fact that you have addressed the baseline problem, which is in the inherent design of the PCM itself, and found a compatible model, taken the software over to a new compatible model. Now, I assume that because you're using that newer or actually different manufacturer PCM as your core unit, you're still in that situation where you can put the stock tune, for lack of a better thing, in operations in, but aftermarket flash controllers and that thing will not necessarily work with your replacement PCMs. Is that so correct?
Yes, you cannot use any turbos, and you can't supercharge it. You can't use a Banks turbo. It's about the equivalent of putting a square peg in a round hole. Not going to happen. You can adjust tires, speedos, the gears, all through the OBD2 port, and you can't use the emulator. I believe it's a DRB scanner that communicates with these things.
Right.
The later scanners use an emulator and they won't communicate, so you have to use an old school scanner.
Okay.
There is one thing that it comes up very often, and when in these Jeeps in the 05s, 06s, you'll hit a rev limiter where it starts sputtering at like 25 or 20. It won't let you get above certain RPMs.
Okay.
And 99% of the time, it's a cam crank issue where the cam and the crank need to be realigned, and that's helped a lot of people with that issue. It's usually a 16 code, and if you are having any rev limiter issues, check the cam and the crank through the OPDA and make sure it's dead center, and that'll solve that issue. Like I said, different things come up at different years, and it just seems like when a lot of people have their cam and crank out of alignment.
Yeah, well, that can happen with what is commonly called the laughing monkeys on the OPDAs, when the fact that the series of designs on those did not bother to connect the oil spiral on the drive shaft that comes up from the camshaft to the upper bearing. It only lubricated the lower bearing. And so eventually the upper bearing started to boil, says, I'm out of here. And it starts chirping or even breaks the shaft. And those of us that have had that problem know the sound very well. And I ended up having to replace mine and retime it as well. Fortunately, that was not difficult to do. It just was a matter of, following the step-by-steps and using a correct drill bit size that lined up with the alignment timing hole. So, but yeah, that's good to know. It's very good to know.
And you're also doing JK, you said also?
Yeah, we on the JKs, I've got maybe about 400 or 500 of them sitting on the shelves, and on those they're both hardware and software specific. So we on JK PCMs, we just need that software sticker. And switching gears, the website is being worked on as we speak. It's totally going to be revamped, and there's going to be it's going to be a completely different website with broken down by YJs, TJs, JKs. We just redid this guy's rebuilt this guy's Gladiator. He gave someone a jump and blew his PCM. He was in Arizona. He blew it halfway across Maricopa County, and so we were able to get it taken care of. Though it took us the newer Fiat stuff has trap doors. They don't want people in their stuff. The VIN is hidden. I believe it's hidden in 4 or 5 places in that particular PCM, and it's like Jenga. If you go the wrong road, it all collapses on you, it locks up, and you got to figure out how to unlock it. But we weaseled our way through and figured it out.
Sweet.
A little bit of reverse engineering in practice.
Yeah, you have to be a step ahead of them, and otherwise you're just they're trying to kill us. They want to they don't like people that want to mess with their electronics.
Quick question on that same token is that it's a big thing right now in the automotive industry, but chip shortages. You're not affected by any of this chip shortage stuff, right? You're good to go on that.
I always take preemptive strikes, and my thanks Uncle Mike, U.S. Marine preparedness. He beat it into me. So when this chip shortage first started coming around, it was we have a surplus. We don't have an infinite amount, but I have the processors that we use to build the TJs and the YJs. If we don't have the stuff, we can send them in and repair. But yeah, we have an ample amount of everything that we need.
Good.
Yeah, and again, we have some special things that we can do for any of you old. We have 2 diesel trucks that we specialize in, the 7.3 Power Strokes. They ended in 02.5. We still rebuild those things. There's still thousands of them out on the road. And the 96 7th and 8th, the first gen Cummins, those JTEC 3-plug computers. My technician can take a 5.9 gas and turn it into a 5.9 diesel, and we can deliver it anywhere in the world the next day. So you guys out there looking for that stuff on CarPart and you can't find it, oh, yeah, we can do that.
Well, a lot of Jeepers use those the 2 engines you're talking about in their tow vehicles, their recovery, or in my case, getting to and from events, so that if I do something stupid at the event, I have a way to get home. It's good to know that you're branching out even beyond the Jeeps, and no, folks, to our listeners, that's not sacrilegious. That's good business practice.
So, yes, sir. We still are a capitalist country. Last time I checked, I cut my teeth. I know I can sell Cummins and Power Strokes in my sleep. That's what I cut my teeth in this business. So I'm not going to go away from what has fed me for years. But yes, we're expanding, and I've got 2 of my 4 children working with me full time, and 5 guys in the office. So we've grown exponentially, and I'm very, again, thanks and gratitude can't be said enough out of my mouth. So thank you guys very much.
No
well,
worries.
and go another step further. Even if it's something you don't, are you willing to support people if they have an oddball? Can they give you a call and maybe you can send them in the right direction?
Absolutely. I've got guys that I recommend depending on what the situation is. We can repair anything. It's just we specialize in Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep stuff, with the exception of the Power Strokes and some Duramax stuff. But we can repair anything electronics. It's just if you have an issue, just pick up the phone. I'm not going to charge you to talk to you. Well, I've been called loquacious and a lot worse. So.
Yeah, I wanted to pass that along to our listeners out there, because most of us have Jeep. We also have other vehicles as well, and the fact that you do have that level of expertise in the shop, it's nice to know that there's a resource out there, even outside, maybe stretching a little bit, and. So listeners, if you've got something oddball and the ECM you think is your problem, give Mark a call. He can probably talk to you and at the very least send you in the right direction. So Mark, anything else you want to add? I can't tell you how much I appreciate having you on again and you taking the time to talk to us. It's great to hear that you're growing. That's awesome in this economy. It's also great to hear that you're picking up more Jeeps, which is really what our world revolves around on this show.
Yeah.
Yes, and again, without each and every one of you, I wouldn't be where I am. And again, I have a very simple philosophy. I'm only as good as my last interaction with my last customer. What I've done in the past is indicative of what I'm going to do in the future. But that's how critical I am of myself. Without putting the customer back in customer service, you just become another internet's parts peddler, and I will never be that person. And I want to keep my reputation, and I live by practice what I preach. And again, that's really it. I'm very thankful that I was on the show, and I think it came out pretty good. Hopefully it did.
No, it came out great. I just want to interrupt you real quickly, because this is actually very funny, because sometimes I'll try and tag you. If you're wondering about Mark's customer service, don't take our word for it. Go on one of these forums, okay, one of these Facebook pages, and say, hey, I'm having a problem with my computer. You won't even get the word computer out, and you'll get probably a half dozen immediate responses of someone either tagging Mark or saying, hey, check out Wranglerfix. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So don't take our word for it.
Yes.
Do your own research like we talk about, and you'll see for yourself.
Yep, absolutely. I just wish I'd known about you back when I was chasing computers. I can't tell you. I ended up buying 3 of them to then have one reflash that was so good. So I'm still running a stock, put that in quotes, PCM on slightly altered. And, I do know that my time's coming, although I did a battery relocation and made some changes to it, which should help it not be quite such a hot box where it was. But otherwise, I'll probably be one of your customers in the not too distant future if my O5 continues to behave the way it's been.
Okay. Well, you've got to, I'm always a click or a call away. And like I said, the best part about these things is they are repairable in the event that they do ever have any issues. And I've got a surplus. So I'm not going anywhere. And again, I can't begin to thank each and every one of you a month, each and every one of you, all the groups, and just thank you. I appreciate it.
Cool.
All right. Well, anytime, Mark. Scott, anything else before we move on to the next section?
No, I think that's good. I think we covered it. Again, Mark, we love having you on. Thanks again, bud.
Absolutely. Nice talking to you guys, and thank you. God bless. Have a great day.
You too. Hey Jeepers, wanted to also let you all know that Mark has a coupon code, BR549. Some might get that from a old 70s/early 80s TV show. But yeah, BR549 is a coupon code. So, want to save a little cash? Use it. Okay, I'm putting it under my chin. Did it open? I think I hear it.
Hold on. Yeah, it's opening. It's opening. It's good. Hey, folks. Thanks to everybody that replied to the "What's he working on?" post on the slightly altered. For those of you who didn't see it, I'm very proud of it. As I told you before, when the RV broke down, we drove it all the way back from Tennessee through Alabama on the leg of our trip down into Albany, Georgia, a little town where I used to live as a child, which was a lot of fun to go see. And it made it home, even though it was significantly overloaded with all the stuff from the RV shoved in the Jeep. And anyhow, it got here, and noticed a couple of weeks after that I had little green puddles underneath the front of the Jeep. And didn't matter whether it was warm or cold, I kept getting little green puddles. In fact, ended up putting a catch pan underneath it. Obviously, my radiator did a little digging, and it was the classic lower plastic tank where it was crimped on to the main core, had finally given up the ghost. And I guess pushing it down the road, plus the transmission heat, the transmission coolers in that bottom tank. And so it basically started dribbling on the floor. And since I needed to use this Jeep again, I said, well, I better fix it and fix it in a hurry. So long story short, I ordered a new radiator. I did some research on some different options of radiators. And one of them that came up consistently highly rated, for me, and I decided to try it, is a company I'd never heard of before. I'm sure it's Chinesium, but it's Tiziri, Tiziri. And they make basically, I'm going to be honest, it's probably a knockoff of the Mishimoto. Thank you, Scott.
No worries.
And in three different reviews, it was listed as number 1. And then the fourth one, it was like number 2 behind the Mishimoto, with the comment that it's just as good as the Mishimoto, but doesn't cost as much. It's about half the cost. It's 3-row cooling rather than two-row, which the factory is. And it comes with a few other things like I was very impressed that it actually comes with a metal drain cock rather than the plastic plug that's in most of them that leaks.
Wow.
This is old style brass petcock at the bottom. It has a machined aluminum cap, which, okay, it's a gimmick, but it looks nice. Fitment was almost perfect. The radiator bolted to the Jeep perfectly. The shroud needed some clearancing on the holes. And that could be to the fact that my shroud is an 05, and this is 21. So, it's 17 years old, and it could have warped a little bit, the plastic, but nothing that rat's tail file and, 4 or 5 strokes of the rat's tail file to get the shroud lines up. What I would tell folks is if you do this, don't make my mistake and leave the shroud in the Jeep. Get the shroud out. While the radiator's out, it's easy to lift it out. Lay it over the radiator that you buy and make sure the holes line up. It's a lot easier to adjust the holes out of the Jeep than it is doing it in the Jeep. I did it the hard way, obviously. It does not leak. It also has a different kind of cooler in it. It's got a turbulator inside the cooler for the transmission. You can see the edges of it. I was able to transfer over the connectors for the automatic transmission. Install went well. Install went really well. The only problem was when I went to start the Jeep, it was deader than a doornail. Because what I didn't realize was somewhere along the line, my original stock alternator decided to blow a diode. And folks, without going into a great deep story on how alternators work, you can Google that all over the place. Suffice to say, it's called an alternator because it creates alternating current. In fact, it creates 3-phase alternating current. And then there's both a rectifier diode and a voltage control pack inside. And the computer controls the voltage level output through a series of pulse commands of, on, off, called, and the diode packs turn the AC into DC. Realized something I'd known, but I'd never really seen it before in an automobile. Diodes can short open. 90% of the time they short open. But on rare occasions, if they melt really good, the lead can short out to ground. And that's what happened to mine. So basically, I had about a 7-amp drain through my alternator. Needless to say, in a couple of days, it door-nailed that battery. As good as the battery that I have, which is an Odyssey from Pennsylvania, it's that solid lead or 100% lead battery. Now, the good news is the Odyssey was a little customer. And even though it was dead, I called up Odyssey. Service was fantastic. I said, is it possible to recover it? It was down to 4 volts, just 4 stinking volts. And he said, well, you can try to kick it hard. How long was it left dead? I said, well, 24, 48 hours. He said, yeah. He says, but do you have a high amperage charger? And I said, would a dual battery, dual alternator, diesel truck be a good enough kicker? And he said, yeah, that'll do. That'll do.
Yeah.
He's just watch the spark when you make that final connection because it's going to kick. And he said, now watch it. Excuse me. Watch your temperature rise on the battery. Keep a hand on it. It's not going to take more than 10 or 12 minutes, to get a base charge because you need to get it up to where your electronic chargers can take over. Because folks, and I've talked about this in other shows, if your battery gets below 6 volts, most of the modern smart chargers will think it's a 6-volt battery and start charging it like it's a 6-volt, not a 12. And somehow that doesn't restore
No.
a full battery. So anyway, I jumped it, and almost immediately, with that much power behind the charging system, the lights in the Jeep came on, and it started binging, going, "I'm awake, I'm awake, I'm awake." Kind of like Scott after you give him a double cappuccino with extra caffeine.
Not anymore.
Yeah, sure, not anymore. And so, I kept going until I felt a somewhat warming of the battery. It's kind of hard to tell if it's getting warm when outside is 96 degrees.
Yeah.
But regardless, the key is once it builds it up to where it's above 6 volts, the truck system pumped it up to where it was floating at about 11 and a half, which I could have tried to start it. In fact, I did start the Jeep at that point just to and then disconnect the truck and let it idle for about 15 minutes, shut it down, check the resting voltage, and it was back up to almost 12. And then I put it on the intelligent charger. It took 3 days on the intelligent charger cycling through, but she came all the way back up to 13.8. So
Sweet.
I'm real happy with it. I no longer have a phantom power drain. So this diode's probably been going out for a little while. Hold on a second. Excuse me. Got to the mute button that time. And so I now have a brand new alternator. And there's a little story to tell on the alternator that I do want to share with you guys. And this one caught me, and it caught O'Reilly's Auto Parts. It caught Advanced Auto Parts, and one of the other ones. I can't think of the last one in our area here. All three of them have the same essential database. Folks, if you have a TJ, and it may go beyond the TJ, but let's just stick with the TJs. That's the only one I can confirm. And you go in with I need a alternator 4, a 2003, 2005, 2000 and whatever. And they'll come up and they'll say, well, you've got multiple sizes. There's a 117, which is stock. There's a lighter duty one that nobody buys. It's like 94 amps charging. I'm sorry, not watts, but then there's a 124 available. And then the Rubies have the 136, I believe. And I was like, well, if you've got the 136, they all were about the same price. I'll go for the Ruby grade. And it shows up that afternoon, and I grab it and drop off my old one so I don't have to pay the core. Run home, because you look at it, identical. And then you realize it's a mirror image. The mounts are completely not backwards, they're mirrored. So the alternator won't bolt up. So I go back. And I go, don't think this is right. Okay, well, what was the model, make, year, model, all that stuff? And we run through it again. I said, yeah, I got the same values when I looked it up online. And we were talking about it, and he's like, well, this looks just like the picture. I said, do you still have my cord? You already sent it back. He says, no, it's in the back. Go get it. So he brought it out. And in fact, setting it on the desk, what do? First thing you do is he stuck them pulley to pulley. He says, see, they're exactly the same. I said, no, you're not looking at it right. I said, turn one of the two of them around so it's nose to tail, so they're both in the same orientation as they go in the Jeep. And he did, and he's like, oh, crap. That's a mirror. I said, yes, it is. And so he goes back in the computer again. He starts Googling. He goes, I don't get it. He says, we show 3 different part numbers by different remanufacturers, new manufacturers. And he looked at me. He said, you know what? Put your card in. I'm going to refund you. Take your core home. I'm ordering every one of these models. I said, what? He goes, look, if they, at least at O'Reilly's, he said, we get them delivered in from the warehouse. They'll be here tomorrow after 1. We're going to settle this. He says, I have no idea why it's coming up this way, but I'm going to order every single one we got showing for your Jeep. And we're going to find one that fits you. Now, that's some customer service there, Scott, I got to tell you.
Oh, yeah.
He said, don't worry about it. He said, because after 5 days, anything that's not sold goes back to the warehouse. So it comes in, and unfortunately, the guy I was working with wasn't there that day, the next day. And but one of the other counter people was very nice, and he's kind of looking at it, and he goes, okay. So he goes back, and he says, why are there 3 boxes here? And I said, well, that one's probably the wrong one. These other 2. So he opens the next box and pulls it out, and he says, yeah, see, it's exactly the same. I said, nope, it's mirrored. I had to teach him that. He looked at it, he goes, crap, you're right. And he goes back and looks at the computer. And he says, I don't get it. I said, well, let's look at the 3rd and final box and just see here whether my Jeep's really weird, which I don't think it is, because I've seen lots of other 6 cylinders. Excuse me. And lo and behold, that one was correct. And they're all looking at it. The entire store comes over to look, going, why are they all listed the same? Now, we never solved that problem. I did come back and go through the factory service manuals. I can tell you what's going on as far as which is which kind of alternator. But it's something that, folks, if you have a 2 point, let's see, what was the later 4-cylinder, Scott? The
2
earlier
point-
one was
the 2.5, and then the later one was a 2.3.
Okay, 2.3. That was right. The 2.3 and the 4 liters all have their alternator on the passenger side, but the 2.5 has it on the driver's side, according to the service manual. And it is exactly the same alternator down to every rivet, bolt, whatever, except the case, the legs on the case, the 2 for down and 1 for up, are mirror imaged. So the alternator, if you're looking at the pulley from the front of the Jeep, the 2.5 alternator legs go out to the left, whereas the 4 liter and the 2.3, they go out on the right side of the case, and they are not interchangeable, even though they come in the box, all labeled with the exact same part number. So lesson learned there, if you're buying a Jeep alternator, take your old one with you and make bloody, put them on the bench, line them up. Don't put them pulley to pulley. That'll throw you for an eye. Put them side by side with both pulleys pointing at you, and make sure everything is pointing the same way, that the plug's in the same spot, the bolt stud for the main power is in the same way, the arms are in the same way. Fortunately, O'Reilly's in Riverview, Florida, was fantastic. They worked with me. They went out of their way, quite frankly, to get me the right alternator. I would have liked the upgrade, but the only one that they had in stock in the warehouse, because he called the warehouse and said, "Do you know this?" And they're like, "No, you're crazy." And they opened it up, and they're all the wrong ones. And they're like, so you want to make sure you get the right one and save yourself a trip. And also, you don't want your core to disappear if you don't have the right one. There are plenty of each one out there. It's just obviously the larger number of them that they sell are the 4-liter versions. So the ones that are sitting in the warehouse in a big pile are the other ones. So lesson there. The result of both of which are slightly altered, running better than it ever has before. Used to have my temperature creep up to 210 in the summer running the air conditioner. It doesn't budge above 195 flat out. Nothing makes it go above 195. So
nice.
The additional cool, fantastic. The transmission temperature is down as well. Now, you don't have a gauge for that, but there is a PID in when you put a data analyzer on and look at the PIDs. And the better lower cooling system, that's the one that has a turbulizer, which is really, you look in there and it looks like somebody took a bunch of spiral steel that came off a lathe, when they do a long straight cut and it gets that big coil.
Right.
And they cut turbulent zone in the cooler tube so that the hot transmission fluid is moved around. So the inner core of it gets up against the wall in some places, and then it mixes and it lowers the cooling temperature. The other twist that I didn't realize was the air conditioner works a lot better too.
Of course.
Because they're doing a lot better job at rejecting heat. So the radiator isn't trying to, it's first in line. Sorry, the air conditioner is first in line. So it gets the coldest air first. Now, that's not cold air here right now, but it's also not fighting the back heat off that aluminum radiator. So I'm really pleased with this Taziri radiator. I got mine through Amazon, folks. No, it's not a sponsor. It was only about $170, delivered in about 3 days. Like I said, bolted in almost perfectly, just minor modifications to a plastic shroud for bolt alignment. Cools really well. So far, so good. No leaks, no nothing. It works, flat out works. And the alternator was just a remanufactured Bosch unit through O'Reilly's. And that also came right back up. Now I'm running a steady 13.8 to 14.2 volts, and battery is back up to where my battery analyzer says she's 100%. It's supposed to be an 850 cold cranking amps. And I can tell you that the Odyssey battery took that, being discharged and then recharged in stride, and it's still showing over 900 CCA on the load test. So
sweet.
Got a session there.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, I don't know about you, but it's time for me to take some more Dayquil.
Yeah, not a problem. I
Yeah.
can tell my good and gravelly too. So,
Yeah.
anyway, folks, we hope this slightly offbeat show is to your liking. Let us know if there's comments, questions, any ideas for the show. And we let you know if we make it to Jasper. We hope to. We're going to try. But we're not going to put anybody else at risk of catching our cruds. So y'all take care. And as we always say, I think it's about time to, well, I would normally say put the Jeep in 4 low and go hit the trail. But I think, as Scott said, I think I'm going to put the phone back on the table and, I don't know.
Go take a nap.
Check for the Fed.
Yeah.
And maybe go find the bed. How's that?
Exactly. Hey, and as we always, don't forget, remember to wheel legal, tread lightly, take nothing but pictures, memories, and your trash when you leave the trail.
Yes, we want the trail to be there for our kids and our kids' kids. So.
You know what's funny is I got the intro and the outro right, and I'm sick.
Yeah. Well, that's because maybe your comedian side of your brain is taking a break.
It's asleep.
All right, folks, take care, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
All righty, bye.
Bye.
Proceeding has been provided for entertainment only. Proper service and repair procedures are vital to the safe, reliable operation of all motor vehicles, as well as personal safety of those performing those repairs. Standard safety procedures and precaution, including the use of safety goggles and proper tools and equipment, should be followed at all times to eliminate the possibility of personal injury or improper service which could damage the vehicle or compromise its safety.
What he said. Thanks a lot for listening, guys. You guys have a great day.
Bye.
This has been a Bent Axle Media production.